Welcome to No More and Guess Less with Teresa. And the last one for today's session block on persuasion has to do with some universal truth about persuasion and what kind of a person actually does the best job of persuading. Your book actually showcases a few research insights that everybody should know that have to do with persuasion and a persuader. And yes, they start off with who makes the best persuader. And guys, instead of just looking at your book and regurgitating what you're being served with there, I want you to go back into your Unit 1 and half of Unit 2 and actually ask yourself, who is actually an ideal persuader? Would it maybe be somebody who has a certain dynamism, a certain joie de vivre, a certain enthusiasm for their topic? Absolutely. It is a person who knows their audience. So yes, of course you can say that it is somebody who has the verbal and non-verbal signs that showcase good character and trustworthiness. But you can also just dig a little deeper and come up with your own ideas of what an ideal communicator is. You also want to maybe come back to this idea of goodwill. A good persuader wants well for their persuadees. They want good things to come to the audience members. Now that we've talked about the persuader, let's talk about the message a little bit. Once again, go back. We've talked about emotions in messages. We've talked about reasoning in messages. We've talked about evidence in messages. So what makes the most effective message? Here they say, one that is delivered at the appropriate time and combines logical and rational appeals. So it's pretty much what we have talked about. The only thing that is hinted at here that we haven't really discussed is the timing of a message. You guys are still very young, so you know exactly that the timing of messages with your parents is super important. Let's say you would like a present from your parents or you want something from your parents. You wouldn't ask them on a Monday afternoon when everything's just going mad and your parents are running up and down trying to get the kids settled and trying to get work done and all of that. That is a bad time. What do? You maybe make them a dinner, you wait for a Sunday afternoon after a little trip together so that they're in a good mood. Persuasion is most likely to happen in a conducive environment, and an environment has to do with not just the physical environment, but also the chronological environment. So please keep that in mind. What makes a good message as well? One that is custom-made and bespoke to the audience members. First have a look who you're talking to and then design your message. Talking about messages, and also something that we have chatted about, should you deal with the opposition's argument? We're going straight back to Toulmin, who included the rebuttal in his argumentative structure. Well, the rebuttal showcases the opposition's argument, and we said if we want to have a comprehensive argument, that should definitely come up. As a rule of thumb, I believe it's always better to bring up the opposition's argument in what you have to present. I have chatted about the fact that your credibility rating goes up. It is also much better for an audience that is hostile toward your view. So basically, you're disarming them by bringing up what they already believe and you're weaving it into your own argument. Also, a good idea to bring up the opposition's argument is when you're dealing with a very educated audience. They are so used to hearing both sides of the argument, and they know that there are two sides to the argument. So you would do yourself a disservice not actually bringing them up. You should also bring up the opposition's argument when you know that your recipients will be exposed to it at some point in time anyway. And especially when it comes to advertising, your competition doesn't sleep. Of course, they're also advertising. So why not say, ooh, others will tell you that they are using better ingredients, but we have the best. So you are, once again, disarming your opposition. Very interesting question is whether to draw conclusions for your audience or not. It depends on they are is the answer to that. If you want to have more of a buy-in, if you want to have more of an attitude change, you actually want to leave the conclusion in the hands of the audience members. It has to do with the age-old equation of sharing responsibility. If you're in it, if you are reasoning with somebody, and if you're extending thought on something, then you're more likely to follow that thought. Whereas if somebody spells out the conclusion, then you haven't made that effort, and therefore you're usually not as convinced. Finishing off, do decisions made on the basis of outside influence tend to change with time? Absolutely. Absolutely. Any decision that is not based on your own convictions will fade with time. This is particularly relevant in the organization where managers obviously make a whole lot of decisions. So making sure that people don't slip up and making sure that people don't lose their conviction is important, and you as a manager should keep that on your radar. Group membership is another biggie in persuasive communication, and your peers have a very significant influence on your levels of persuasion, how much you're being persuaded. If everybody does it, you're more likely to do it. If everybody thinks it, you are more likely to think it. So your family, your community, your professional colleagues, your friends, all of them have an impact on how you think and how much you're being persuaded. And persuasion is always the highest when it doesn't just relate to you, or if it doesn't just get you, but gets the group that you're embedded in at the same time. The last question that they're asking here, do recipients' variables play a crucial part in persuasion? Absolutely. I just pointed out the educational levels of your audience will determine if you're bringing up the conclusion or not, whether you are presenting the opposite argument or not. So age, education, cultural background, all of these things play huge roles in how you are designing your message. So please keep that in mind and always have a look at the demographics of your audience as well as the sociographics of your audience before you are sitting down to design a persuasive message. I hope you enjoyed it, Schnookies. Until next time, bye!